Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside the Review Room, the podcast where sports controversies, chaos, and greatness all collide. I'm your host, Helena, and today we're diving into a wild one, the most outrageous, jaw-dropping, are you kidding me fines in sports history. From thousands to millions, some of these incidents will make you wonder if leagues have a fine quota that they have to hit each year. So let's jump in. At number 1, we have Gilbert Arenas. We're starting with one of the most infamous NBA stories. In 2010, Gilbert Arenas brought actual firearms into the Wizards' locker room during a dispute with teammate Javaris Crittenton over gambling debts. This led to a suspension without pay that definitely cost him, as Gilbert Arenas lost approximately $7.3 million for his 50-game suspension. Each game he missed cost him $147,000 to $200,000. Therefore, 50 suspended games times that amount is $7.3 million. Along with violating the NBA's policy of bringing a gun to the league and team facilities, Arenas was also charged with carrying a pistol without a license in the District of Columbia, to which he pled guilty. He was also ordered to spend 30 days in a halfway house.
Horrible decision, but it wasn't like I'm coming in there blazing guns and shit. Like, no, that wasn't me. That was never no intentions. It was, I wanted to call his bluff. I didn't think you're going to do what you're going to do, right? We're friends. Like, you know what I mean? That's my guy.
The other Wizard involved in the locker room gun incident, Crittenton, was also suspended for the rest of the 2009-2010 season. The guard, who hadn't appeared in a game all season, had a shorter suspension since Arenas was indefinitely suspended 3 weeks prior to the incident. Crittenton would never appear in another NBA game, and in 2011, he was charged with the murder of a 22-year-old mother of 4. In 2013, he pled guilty to the involuntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 23 years, which was later reduced to 10. He was released from prison on April 23, 2023. This incident tightened the NBA's weapons policy, prompting a league-wide crackdown on any possession of firearms on team premises. It also pushed teams to improve player background checks and counseling programs for conflict resolution. He's talked about it plenty since then, and there's a recent documentary all about it on Netflix with much more additional details. At number 2, we have McLaren F1. In 2007, Formula 1 rocked the racing world when McLaren was slapped with a staggering $100 million fine. The reason? Well, they were caught in possession of confidential Ferrari technical documents. I believe it was about 800 pages or so of confidential Ferrari technical info. In other words, Spygate emerged after a disgruntled Ferrari employee, Nigel Stepney, took what was essentially blueprints of the team's 2007 car and gave them to his friend Mike Coughlin, who at the time was chief designer of McLaren. This scandal eventually resulted in McLaren being expelled from the Constructors' Championship, and they were fined the hefty price for illicitly holding information to confer a dishonest and fraudulent sporting advantage, though drivers Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton were not penalized and were allowed to continue competing for the driver's title. The scandal led Formula 1 to revise its data-sharing protocols and enforce stricter confidentiality rules between teams. The FIA also implemented heavier penalties for technical espionage. At number 3, we have Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch, known for his terse, brief and to the point, media interactions, was fined $100,000 by the NFL for refusing to talk to the press. He reportedly dodged a $500 fine from the NFL by showing up to Media Day when he dropped his famous line, "I'm just here so I won't get fined."
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined. So y'all can sit here and ask me all the questions y'all want to. I'm going to answer with the same answer, so y'all can shoot if y'all please. I'm here so I won't get fined. I'm here so I won't get fined. I'm here so I won't get fined. I'm just here so I won't get fined. And I'm just here so I won't get fined. Time.
Marshawn admitted on a podcast that he has been fined over $1 million during his career for numerous things, including not showing up for stuff, etc., and the fines just kept piling up from there. Lynch's case fueled debates about mandatory media obligations. While the NFL didn't lift the rule, it inspired more mental health advocacy around player anxiety and led to players and leagues crafting more flexible media guidelines. At number 4, we have Todd Bertuzzi. In 2004, hockey witnessed one of its darkest moments when Vancouver Canucks forward Todd Bertuzzi launched a blindsided attack on Colorado Avalanche's Steve Moore. In the middle of a game attempting to instigate a fight, Bertuzzi sucker punched Moore from behind, diving him headfirst into the ice, leaving him unconscious for about 10 minutes on the ice with 3 fractured vertebrae and a concussion. Bertuzzi was suspended indefinitely, missing the rest of the 2003-04 season, the 2004 playoffs, and the entire 2004-2005 season due to the NHL lockout. He lost over $500,000 in salary and later reached a confidential settlement in a civil suit brought by Moore. The incident apparently cost the Canucks millions in lawsuits. They paid a significant significant amount into the players' emergency assistance fund, and in addition, the Canucks were fined $250,000 for creating an atmosphere that promoted fighting and not doing enough to prevent the incident, and it really shattered Bertuzzi's public image. What many viewed as retaliation for an earlier hit turned into a career-ending injury for Moore and a permanent stain on Bertuzzi's reputation. It became a flashpoint in the debate over hockey's culture of retribution and violence. This incident forced the NHL to confront its tolerance of enforcer culture and justice on the ice. The league introduced stricter punishments for intentional hits to the head, cracked down on instigated fights, and increased suspension lengths for violent retaliation. Teams began prioritizing discipline, safety, and accountability, shifting the game further from its fight-heavy past. Now, speaking of fights, at number 5 we have Mike Tyson. June 28th, 1997, or as it's now known in boxing history, the Bite Fight, is a night that will forever live in infamy. In a highly anticipated rematch against Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, frustrated after what he claimed was repeated headbutts, took matters into his own hands, or rather his mouth. After suffering through 2 rounds at the hands of Holyfield, Tyson shocked the world in round 3 by biting off a 1-inch chunk of Holyfield's ear. The referee temporarily paused and warned Tyson not to bite again, but just minutes later, Tyson attempted it a second time. The fight was called off, he was disqualified on the spot, and the ring erupted in chaos. Tyson was slapped with a $3 million fine by the Nevada State Athletic Commission and handed a lifetime ban from boxing. Though he eventually appealed the suspension and was reinstated, the damage to his reputation and to boxing's public image was already done. The incident exploded into headlines around the world. Fans were stunned, commentators called it the lowest point in modern boxing. Tyson was ridiculed, condemned, and turned into both a villain and a bizarre cultural icon. Despite the backlash, the pay-per-view numbers were historic, and so was the scandal. The Bite Fight pushed boxing's governing bodies to crack down on in-ring discipline. It led to stricter enforcement of fight conduct rules, enhanced training for referees, and closer psychological screening of fighters with a history of erratic behavior. It also reignited the debate about mental health in combat sports, forcing commissions to consider the long-term effects of brain trauma and unchecked aggression. Number 6, we have Luis Suarez. Nicknamed Cannibal, soccer star Luis Suarez has earned a reputation for his biting incidents. Yes, biting, and yes, multiple. In various episodes throughout his career, including a notorious incident on the field with Cellini, he was fined nearly $130,000 for the incident alone, along with facing match bans and widespread condemnation. FIFA updated disciplinary language to include acts like biting and non-traditional violent conduct, and the incidents also pushed teams to incorporate sports psychologist support and anger management as part of player development. Number 7, we have Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor and Khabib have both received lengthy bans for the ugly scenes after their fight at UFC 229 ended with brawls spreading into the crowd. The Dagestan fighter turned his attention to Team McGregor and engaged in a verbal tirade before scaling the cage and launching himself at McGregor's training partner. An ugly melee ensued with fights taking place outside and inside the octagon. 3 members of Team Khabib jumped into the octagon to attack McGregor before the Las Vegas Metro Police detained those involved in the incident. Khabib was fined $500,000 US and suspended for 9 months for the brawl, and McGregor was fined $50,000 and suspended for 6 months. McGregor's press conference behavior led to UFC to establish stricter security and behavior standards at media events, and it also opened up a conversation on whether antics should be regulated as part of fight promotion. Number 8, we have Zinedine Zidane. Now we revisit one of soccer's most iconic moments. During the 2006 World Cup final between France and Italy, French captain Zidane headbutted Italy's Marco Materazzi, an act that cost him not only his place on the field, but also a fine and an extended ban from competitive play. Materazzi later admitted he had used stupid words, but added that they didn't deserve to provoke such a reaction. He said something about his sister, something along the lines of that instead of trading shirts, he'd prefer his sister instead, which led to the infamous headbutt incident. FIFA ramped up its commitment to on-field conduct and sportsmanship, even creating educational campaigns around emotional control during high-stake matches. VAR, Video Assistant Referee Tech, was later introduced and is partly influenced by incidents like this to catch missed behavior. At number 9, we have Frank Gore. Frank Gore made a little extra money for reaching his first Super Bowl in 2013, and he celebrated that by spending a little extra money on his uniform. Gore was fined $10.5K by the NFL for wearing his socks too low during the 49ers' victory over the Atlanta Falcons in the NFC Championship game. According to league rules, players must have their socks pulled up to cover their entire lower leg, and Gore's improper attire violated that rule. But this wasn't a one-off either. Gore has been fined multiple times throughout his career for uniform infractions, especially related to socks. While the sock rule itself remained, Gore's high-profile fine helped amplify a growing movement among players calling for more freedom in how they expressed themselves on the field. This eventually led to pushing the NFL toward creating the My Cause, My Cleats initiative, allowing players to express themselves during certain games while staying within approved guidelines, a balance between individuality and uniformity. A slightly more relaxed approach to uniform violations, with the NFL now issuing warnings before fines in many cases, and differentiating between minor style choices and true non-compliance. And it also led to increased conversations around individuality versus brand fan control in the league. And last but not least, we have Jason Kidd. In 2013, Brooklyn Nets head coach Jason Kidd pulled one of the NBA's slyest stunts. With no timeouts left and just seconds on the clock, Kidd accidentally bumped into his assistant coach, spilling his drink on the court. The delay forced a stoppage in play, effectively giving his team a free timeout to draw up a final play. While the NBA wasn't amused, Kidd was fined $50,000 for what the league called a deliberate and deceptive act. Cameras clearly caught him mouthing "hit me" just before the spill, and the incident prompted the NBA to reinforce rules around delay of game tactics and led to tighter scrutiny of sideline conduct, making it clear that creative coaching couldn't bend the rules that far. Sometimes a spilled drink just means a mess, but in Kidd's case, it cost him $50,000 and sparked a rulebook reminder across the league. From locker room arsenals to wild on-field antics, these fines prove that sports aren't just about scoring points and breaking records, they're also about navigating a minefield of rules, regulations, and public opinion. If you're looking for more coverage on a story that you heard today, or you want a part 2 of the most outrageous fines, please comment down below. And which of these incidents do you find the most outrageous? Let me know in the comments or on social media at Inside the Review Room. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll be back next week with another deep dive into the world of sports. Until then, stay curious, stay opinionated, and stay inside the review room.
Hey, yo, the mirror don't lie. If you want the truth, don't close your eyes.